Good evening. Today is January 25th, 2022. The time is now 5:34 p.m. This meeting of Georgetown County Council is being called to order. I see we do have a quorum. We'll ask Councilman Carolina to lead us in the invocation, give us the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that will affect the citizens, businesses, environment, and the future of Georgetown County, and continue to remind us that all that we do as stewards over the land and resources is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Carolina. And also thank you all for attending this meeting this evening, and welcome back to Howard Auditorium. We're moving down to the approval of the agenda. There's a recommendation to move item 15A, spotlight, forward on the meeting agenda. Is there a motion for approval of?
So moved.
uh,
Second.
Is moved by Councilman Newton and second by Councilman Anderson. Okay. Any discussion? Motion carries.
No. Mr. Chairman, there is one item that I'm sorry we didn't catch in time. It's on a third reading that needs to be deferred, and that is item 10B. We'll move forward with the public hearing on that, but there's some questions that have recently arisen on that matter, and I have tried to contact counsel for the other party, was not able to reach him. I think it's best that we defer it till we can clear up a few matters.
Okay, you have heard the concern from legal counsel regarding deferring item 10B. Can we get a motion to amend?
I'll make a motion, we amend.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda with the amended change?
So moved. Second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. All right, we'll move on down to item 15A on the agenda. Basketball food pantry. Sir.
Well, good evening. And thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members, for inviting Baskerville Food Pantry to come and tell you about what we do. I'm Nancy Cave, and I'm co-coordinator with Keith Hoyle of the Baskerville Food Pantry. I also would like to introduce Lisa Beeland. Lisa Beeland is our volunteer coordinator, and I think she's here with her husband, yes? The Baskerville Food Pantry is an outreach ministry of Holy Cross Faith Memorial Church. I think you have a slide. Yes, there's a slide in front of you, and I'd just like to identify. You see the front of the pantry on the upper left-hand corner, and the pantry shares space with the Smith Free Medical Clinic at Holy Cross. Across from that, a picture of our wonderful garden. We have a garden behind the Smith Medical Building. It was first planted in 2015, and it gets bigger and better every year. You might recognize Ray Funny and two members of Plantersville Youth. He is distributing food to two residents of Plantersville. This is a partnership that we do with the Village Group. And bags of food, which are for our Blessing Forward program, which I will speak to. The pantry has been in existence for quite a while, in fact, since the 1930s, when it started as a closet in Miss Ruby's one-room schoolhouse at Holy Cross. Certainly a lot has happened since then with ups and downs, and so what I want to focus today is not the past, but what we're doing now and what we hope to do in the future. The pantry's goal is to provide sufficient and nutritious supplemental food to the food insecure in Georgetown County. I will say that we have not met that goal. We haven't supplied all of the food insecure people that need food, but we are chipping away at it, and we are very proud of that. In 2021, we provided 4,600 clients and their households with bags of food. Our recent growth is really due to, I would say, 4 factors: our volunteers, our community partnerships, our donors, and our flexibility. The Baskerville Food Pantry is an all-volunteer organization. We have over 66 volunteers that come from throughout the community, from churches, from service organizations, and individuals that are committed to the needs of the area's food insecure. They do many different things: serve clients, prepare bags, transport food, shelve food, work in the garden, among many other things. But the most important is they give their time, their talent, and their treasure to assure those in need receive food. We really couldn't exist without our volunteers, but as important as our volunteers are, our community partnerships and our donors are right there. They all work together. Our community partnerships include relationships with other churches, businesses, and service organizations. And our donors are local. They are throughout the whole area, throughout the whole state, and we have many donors that live outside of the state. All of this, the partnerships, the donors, our volunteers, help us to fulfill our mission and grow. Last but not least is our flexibility, and it truly is flexibility that helped us survive the pandemic. Our volunteers did not back down. We adjusted our processes so everyone would be as safe as possible, and we stayed open Monday through Friday, and we still are open, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. Not only did we keep our doors open, but we expanded our food distribution over the last 2 years. Let me explain. Excuse me. In addition to the pantry produce garden behind our building, we partner with Brookings Gardens Bethea Garden, Hobcob Barony's Victory Garden, and the Community Reinvestment Garden to provide approximately 15 to 20 bags of fresh produce daily to give to our clients. All of this, I would say, is thanks to Dottie D'Ambrosio, who is our coordinator of gardens and our master gardener. We also have added a dozen eggs to each bag of food and frozen meat, chicken, or pork. We expanded what we call our Fresh Express. This is a distribution of fresh produce 6 times on Saturday morning in front of our pantry in Pawleys Island. We are partnering with the Village Group and have done 2 Fresh Express distributions in Plantersville. We initiated the Thanksgiving and Christmas Express, distributing over 200 turkeys and fixings the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and hams and sides the Saturday before Christmas. The pantry is committed to taking food to where people need it most. We know that not everyone can get to the Pawleys Island Food Pantry. We started Blessing Forward last year. It's spearheaded by Renee Ford. Approximately 30 bags of food and eggs are delivered weekly to churches, organizations, and individuals living in the city of Georgetown and west of the river. We also started a program called Rounds of Baskerville. This program distributes perishable food that is given to us by Fresh Market in Pawleys Island. We distribute this to local service organizations and churches that are providing meals to people so that they can distribute these perishable goods directly to them. To say the least, all of this food distribution takes a lot of food. The pantry receives food from the community food drives, from individual food donations, grocery stores like Fresh Market and Lowe's. We also buy food from Low Country Food Bank, Lowe's, and Food Line. In 2021, the pantry spent over $58,000 in food. Thanks to our many, many donors, we have received enough funds to cover the pantry food costs and our program distribution needs. Let me switch subjects just for a moment. We are also very committed to education. A program that was started last year by Barb Royal and Dottie D'Ambrosio, both members of our leadership team, is called Foragers. It is a partnership with the school district, Brookgreen Gardens, and Hobcob Barony. The idea is to provide a program for high school leadership that teaches students about growing food, about distributing food, and how to feed the food insecure. The students come to the pantry, they go to Hobcob, they go to Brookgreen and the Reinvestment Garden and learn in each of those locations. They organize food drives, and they also are able to go into the elementary school and teach the younger children how food is grown and how food is distributed. I will say the program was interrupted by COVID last year, but we hope to be back in full swing this spring. We have known a long time that our people are not reaching everyone as I said, we need to. Our information, however, was intuitive and anecdotal. We needed data. We need data to guide us and help us succeed in providing food to those who need it. So we started a program with Coastal Carolina University and Georgetown Rise. The university did research on who is providing food in Georgetown County, where exactly is food needed, and the obstacles to food availability. The result of this research is much and many, and we have several different programs, and you can go online and look to see where food is being offered and what time and what days of the week. It also, this research also resulted in a collective initiative. And the initiative is a group of like-minded organizations that, with the goal of with food distribution to the county. We will have our first Zoom meeting with these organizations in 2 weeks, And we expect from that to start thinking about how, when, and what do our goals have to be. We hope that county government will engage with us and support the initiative's work. In conclusion, the food pantry goal is to provide supplemental food to the food insecure. In the next couple of years, we will expand food distribution as the pantry and as a part of the collective initiative to areas of the county that don't have food resources or lack transportation. We have learned that transportation and communication are one of the big obstacles for people to get food. We will continue to assess where and how we distribute food to remain relevant to the community while fulfilling our donors' wishes. Our success is dependent on recruiting passionate and committed volunteers, maintaining our existing partnerships and building new ones, and being flexible. We have become a well-respected and supported organization in the community, and we will maintain that support by expanding our services to provide food to all our neighbors who are in need. Thank you very much, and I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any from any of our council members? Thank you for all you do for Georgetown County.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
you. Thanks for being here. We move down to public comments. A public comment period is included on each meeting agenda and shall be limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. No speaker may yield his/her allotted time to another speaker. Members of the public who wish to address council during the public input period should sign up with the clerk of council before the meeting is called to order. At the end of your allotted time, a buzzer will go off, and we ask that you conclude your statements at that particular time promptly. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak this evening?
Mr. Chairman, we do have 5 speakers signed up to speak tonight. The first is Miss Sally Parker.
Council members, can you hear me? Thank
Yeah.
you for giving me the opportunity to speak about a passion of mine, which is animal abuse. There are dogs in Georgetown County that are chained to one spot for days, weeks, months, and years. I know of 5 that have been chained for 2 years that I know of. I've been told that I've been in that one spot for 8 years. This is known as tethering, and in other parts of the country, it's considered to be cruel. I've looked up the laws in these other cities and states, and they're very clear that it is very wrong and dangerous, not only to the dogs, but also to people. It's time for Georgetown County to catch up with the rest of the nation and to enact a law against tethering dogs. I've taken it upon myself to write a petition against tethering, and I've gathered almost 100 signatures. I presented this to City Council last week, and the very next morning, I received an email from the mayor saying that they are going to amend what they have in place for animals and enact a no tethering law. I am so thrilled about this. I'm hoping and praying that you'll do the same thing. I have a copy of my petition and the signatures and excerpts from laws from other cities and states, and also the email from Mayor Giroux that I want to hand to you.
Our next speaker is Donald Gilliard.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Of course, we are dealing with a very important issue of redistricting that happens every 10 years. And we've had the community meetings, and we've met with many members of county council. We've met with the county administrator, and some of us have done some research to try to figure out the best course forward. We have a unique situation in that we have 3 retiring county councilmen, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Steve Goggins, and Councilman John Thomas. That's unique and good in a sense in that they don't have an axe to grind in terms of worrying about re-election. And so we think, and we hope, that will give an extra impetus to make sure that this process is done right and is done fairly. We believe that District 4 should be at least 45% African American district. We believe that. We believe 40% or 39% is not enough. That's what we believe. And we are hoping that you all will look at that map and evaluate it and give us concern, because all of the organizations, certainly within the African American community, the NAACP and all of the others, have weighed in on this issue. And so we're asking you to please help us. Please help us rectify this. I mean, that's the entire conversation in our community is about this redistricting. We understand the numbers in terms of where we have to be. And we are particularly, we've met with the county administrator, several of the city councilmen in Georgetown. We are particular that the West End, those areas, should remain together. And we understand census block. But when I go over to the neck and I see those areas, I'm like, I don't see any difference between coming from Butt Street to Front Street. I don't see any difference. I mean, that's a census block to me. I mean, I don't know all of the legalities of it, but please, we're asking you all to really help us. This is a very important issue, and we hope that you will do due diligence. Thank you.
Marvin Neal.
Again, good evening. First of all, I echo Brother Donald Gilliard in reference to the redistricting. As of last night, community meeting, we're still looking at, from what I understand, map 843. I'm Marvin Neal, president of the Georgetown branch, NAACP. The plan 843 still alternate reduced the county from 3 majority black voting age districts to 2. District 4 would go from 58% black voting age population to 23%. That is not acceptable. District 3 will have 70%. That's called packing. District 7, 63%. The same rights, packing. The Georgetown branch of the NAACP submitted a map earlier in the year, in which I have yet to see it, and I think all maps should be presented to the public, not just the one that you choose to have presented to the public. That is not fairness, and that's not a comparison of analysis to give people a good analogy to go by to make a sound decision. I knew y'all make the decision, but it's not always the right decision. I'm here tonight to ask that the redistricting map 843, 477, and the NAACP map be revealed to the public as all the other maps, as the one map that you presented was, and be explained in the same context of why you did not accept those other maps. The maps that you presented as a second reading is definitely not acceptable. And as a result, in fragmentation and dilution of black voting strength, without pre-clearance, the county council must affirmatively facilitate a redistricting process that complies to the federal mandate enforced, including Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and the 14th Amendment prohibitions on racial discrimination. If Section 2 cannot be met, the U.S. Constitution protects against maps that intentionally pack black voters into districts with unnecessary high black populations or crack them into districts with unnecessary low ones, both strategic, that an intensive and illegitimately elevate race over other consideration and diminishes the political power of black voters. That's what Mr. Gilliard was speaking about earlier. The question must be asked, does the county council plans to ensure that the development of effective minority opportunity districts is included minority majority districts, which is 50+1. A majority minority district is on in which one racial or ethnic minority group comprised of a majority or more than 50% of the relevant voting population. You have not done that. And I'm saying that for the record, that you have not done that, and you have not been fair to the people of District 3, 4, and 7. Thank you for your time.
Nancy Crawford.
Hi, my name's Nancy Crawford. I came here at the end of last year and presented, and I thought I had full support to get an ordinance written for the beaches to have an ordinance for the holes that are dug. I presented this poster that showed very clearly the ginormous holes that are dug on our beaches, and there's not a darn thing that can be done without an ordinance to fill them in. You can go and smack someone in the hand, say, please fill it in. I'm on vacation, I can do what I want to do. I've been with Scoot for 12 years. I see this daily in the summer because I walk the beach daily. And I just want to say, this is not just an issue for the turtles. This is an issue for children that are in these holes that are dug with seats cut out in them for the kids to sit in. If one of those holes would collapse, we would have a tragedy on our beaches. And they would probably die because with the accesses to get to the beaches where the holes are dug on the south end of South Litchfield, Garden City, you wouldn't get there very quickly to rescue the person inside the hole. I thought this would be an ordinance that would go into place, and I'm asking today if we can't have an ordinance. I've got it pretty simply written down to justify what Myrtle Beach adopted, what Surfside Beach adopted. I don't know why we can't do this in Georgetown County. The ordinance simply says that it's illegal to dig holes in the sand deeper than 2 feet, and then any holes that are dug are filled in prior to leaving the beach. Pretty simple ordinance. I'm not asking the police to get out there and measure with a tape measure every hole that is dug. When I'm given the opportunity that if we get a big hole, like what's in these pictures, I mean, these are very big holes, bigger than the person standing next to them. that if we have an ordinance, a police officer can come over and say to the person digging the hole, you need to fill it in. It's too big. We have people playing with cups and digging big holes. I mean, this is not a new thing on the beaches. I've been here 12 years and see it every year. This is another one that's huge. You could put a Mini Cooper in it and cover it up. So I just think that, this is a serious matter. I came to you at the end of the year last year and nothing's been done. I'm asking you kindly today if you could go ahead and simply draft what I spoke of the ordinance that Myrtle Beach has and that Surfside Beach has and put that in effect in Georgetown County so we can stop this big digging by vacationers that come in. We've got to have 3 reads, and so I'm asking today to let's get this going. Let's get this as an ordinance so that we can get these reads presented and read and approved before summer gets here with the beach vacationers coming in. If you want, I'll leave the sign so you can see the holes. I mean, I think I've taken enough pictures to justify the stuff that we deal with on a daily basis. So please consider today to adopt an ordinance, and let's get a reading on it. Let's get a second read, a third read, so we can do something about the holes that are being dug. I appreciate your time.
Vincent Davis.
Good evening, Council, Chairman, other city members of the board. My name is Vincent Davis, and I'm the president of the Pawleys Island Civic Club. We have 2 things on our agenda tonight. One is the building of a storage unit behind Plantation Federal by our post office in Pawleys Island. The Pawleys Island Civic Club stand against that. Number 2, to help our entrepreneurs and business owners with staffing. We have one business that has to close in Pawleys Island because of staffing. Now, the Pawleys Island Civic Club would like to start a trade program in Pawleys Island. So we would like for your wishes on that. And I won't take up a lot of time explaining to you what the trade program would look like. But if we can get together maybe one-on-one with the Civic Club, we can go over that with further details. So take this in consideration that we do need these in Georgetown County. Thank you for your time. I rest the rest of my minutes.
Mr. Chairman, that's the final speaker for tonight.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you all for your comments. We're moving down to the approval of the minutes from our January 11, 2022. Of those,
Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption.
moved by Councilperson Johnson. Is there a second? Councilman, in discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. By virtue of there's an item on the consent agenda that has been approved. Procurement number 2022-001, 13 life pack, 15 volt for monitored defibrillators for emergency services.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I get clarification on that consent agenda? Is Mr. Ellis here or Ms. Silva? Just a question concerning the 13 life packs. Are they exclusively for emergency vehicles, or the defibrillators, are they also being provided in county buildings, such as North St. T Community Center, the Lambertown Community Center? This acquisition, is it also for the placement of defibrillators in those county-owned buildings?
I don't have the details as to the locations. I just have the one shipping location to Emergent EMS at High Market Street. So what they intend to do with those, where they intend to place those, I do not have that information from Mr. Ellis.
Okay, are they strictly for emergency vehicles, ambulance, etc., fire trucks, or they are to be placed permanently within frequently used county buildings?
I do not have that information. It looks like they are portable from what I see. They are reusable and portable. But I do not have the information as to whether they will be just in transit or whether some will be permanently stocked in the buildings.
Okay. Could we please later on verify that as the defibrillator that's down the hall, that's permanently affixed on the wall?
Yep,
And,
I'll verify the locations where these are going to be placed.
okay, would appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Council, the equipment that is listed in the agenda is for the emergency services vehicles.
Okay.
This is not related to our buildings.
Okay. Would that be one of the items that we could explore?
Certainly.
Especially in senior centers, especially in frequently used county buildings. We have one down here in the hall here, and if that is going to be the same trend at all the regional rec centers, Scriven Street, this location, magistrate's office, libraries, that we also consider placing defibrillators in all frequently used county buildings.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move down to public hearings. Pertaining to ordinance number 21-37. Anyone desiring to speak regarding ordinance number 21-37? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. We now open the floor for public comments pertaining to ordinance number 21-41. Is there anyone wanting to speak regarding ordinance number 21-41? Floor is now open. Seeing or hearing anyone, the floor is now closed. We move down to item number 10, third reading of ordinances. We have ordinance number 20-59. Our council, will you present, please?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I could not hear you.
Will you present ordinance number 20-59? Oh, we had some.
Yes, sir. This is simply an ordinance to revise the rules of procedure as previously adopted by the county council, or excuse me, the Georgetown County Council. It's, as I think probably all the council members know, it's been through a number of revisions and discussion, and what you have before you is the finished product to date. I think we've got it where you need it at this point.
And all council members have had an opportunity to review those particular rules.
What was that, sir?
All council members have had the opportunity to review those rule changes.
Absolutely.
Is there a motion for third reading approval?
Pardon me?
Motion for third reading approval.
I will make a motion that we approve this ordinance number 20-59, and my compliments to Mr. Watson on doing a great job of enhancing a long process.
It's been moved by Councilman Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Thomas. Is there a motion to amend to incorporate the revised text?
I'll move that we amend to incorporate the latest changes.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Anderson for the revision. Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
It's second by Councilman Thomas. We'll vote first on the amended. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we'll go back to the original motion. All in favor of third reading approval of ordinance number 20-59 with the revisions? Please show your hands. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to second reading of ordinances. Ordinance number 22-02. Ms. Richardson.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
This ordinance is an amendment to our parking and buffer sections of the zoning ordinance, and this was placed on the agenda due to a request from council to review and update the landscape ordinance in order to approve the appearance of the commercial areas throughout the county. Several of the changes that are included, I won't go over, they're basically a matter of housekeeping and clarification. We had some duplication in those two sections of our ordinance, which we have cleaned up and put all the landscaping and buffer regulations in one place for ease of use. There are also some changes to Chart 2. We require buffers against differing types of land uses. We've made some amendments to that section and added some buffers between new multifamily projects when they're adjacent to commercial properties. We've also added a requirement for when religious or educational uses abut residential mobile home parks. And we have, most importantly, we've added a level 2 buffer for when commercial development abuts vacant property, and that's basically a way to provide some additional landscapings for aesthetics and view corridors. We've also added some language to encourage the planting of native vegetation and to disallow the use of invasive species in landscaping. And the most substantial changes, I believe, are we have required that our shrubs have to be evergreens. We've increased the number and the size that they have to have. We have widened the perimeter landscape buffer to 15 feet around all parking areas. And we have added a requirement that our larger parking lots, and that would be 90 spaces or more, have to have a 10-foot wide parking island between parking modules. We received input from a landscape architect as well as a certified arborist on the ordinance, and we have incorporated those changes as well. Staff is recommending approval for the ordinance that's before you. The Planning Commission discussed these proposed changes at several meetings. We did not have any input from the public at the public hearings that we had. After some discussion about the deleting and the replacing of sections in the ordinance, the needing for adequate spacing for trees within the buffers, and requirements for the maintenance of new landscaping, the Planning Commission vote was 3-2 to recommend approval for the text change that's before you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Richardson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have one. Holly, was there any cost analysis done using the old ordinance versus the new one on be it the small or the large parking lots to a developer?
No, sir. We did not do a cost analysis as part of the.
So we don't know what kind of cost we're passing on to any developer coming in.
I would think the cost, there would be some cost associated with the increased size. Obviously a larger shrub is going to cost more money. Additional trees would cost some as well.
Is this a county, this applies to the county as a whole, correct? Or just the overlay zone?
Yes, sir. As this is written, this would apply to commercial development throughout the county.
Okay. And I'd asked a question earlier about when we were conversing about the types of trees that would be included in a large parking lot and making sure those were canopy or shade trees, not just shrub or wax myrtle.
Correct. A shade tree for every landscape island that's required. And we require that island every 10 parking spaces.
Good.
This ordinance only applied to commercial developments, not residential?
That's correct. This does not apply to residential subdivisions. It would apply to a family development, an apartment has to have a parking lot. So anytime there's a parking lot, it would apply to schools and churches, but not single-family residential projects.
Comment. I know, Ms. Richardson, that you all put a lot of work into this under these trying times with lack of staff. So my hats off to you for doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Mic not working too well. Is there a motion regarding ordinance number 22-02?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we defer this ordinance until we can get a little clarification on the costs we're passing on to our future commercial land development.
I have a motion by Mr. Newton for deferment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carolina. Any discussion? Opposed? Two oppositions. Mr. Goggins and Mr. Thomas. Motion carries. This ordinance is being deferred. We move down to ordinance number 22-03.
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance to amend the Plantation Federal Plan Development to add self-storage to the list of uses
Mr. Chairman,
for this PD.
excuse me, I should have mentioned this before. I need to recuse myself on this particular issue. Thank you.
Be recusing himself. Please let the record reflect. Okay. That's what you said.
This is an ordinance to amend the Plantation Federal Plan Development to add self-storage to the list of uses. That is the title for this plan development, although the Plantation Federal is not located there. This is where the South State Bank and the Goldfinch Winslow Law Office is located. The PD was originally approved back in 1987 as a commercial plan development, and self-storage was not included at that time as a permitted use. There's some history. The applicant did previously request the same change back in October. The Planning Commission recommended denial at that time based on some concerns that were presented at the meeting, and the applicant pulled the request, withdrew it before it came before this body. They then did a new submittal based on some of the concerns that they've heard, and I'll go over those as well. The permitted uses for this PD are basically office and retail oriented. This section of the PD is parcel B2, and it was approved for two 10,000 square foot office buildings. This parcel has 1.83 acres and has been subdivided from the larger tract. The owner is proposing an 11,000 square foot mini storage facility with associated paved outdoor storage for RVs and boats. The plan meets all the setback requirements for the PD, and they're showing a total of 4 parking spaces for the mini storage section. Based on concerns that were expressed previously, they have restricted ingress, egress for this site, which again is at the rear of the property. And so all access will be via Tiller Drive. The applicant has an adjacent storage facility off Tiller Drive. So these units will only be accessed through their existing facility and will not go through the bank property. Midway Fire reviewed the site plan and made some requirements that the width for access be at least 20 feet and that they add an emergency entrance gate. Both of those are shown on the site plan in your packet. They will need to submit a tree plan for review. The applicant does intend to keep a landscape buffer and retain existing trees along the front property line, which is the border between the offices and the bank, as well as keep a natural buffer for a visual screen from the adjacent residentially zoned properties. There are no residential units there at this time, but it is zoned residential, vacant property. There is an existing detention pond along the southwest boundary. The applicant is proposing to erect a chain link fence around the pond. and to extend the existing security fence around the facility. Traffic comparison, like I said, the existing site is approved for 20,000 square feet of office commercial. That would generate about 480 traffic trips per day. 11,000 square feet of mini storage would generate approximately 33 trips per day. So there is a significant decrease in the amount of traffic between the two uses. This does partially fall within the Wacomianek overlay zone. So the buildings would need to comply with the overlay zone requirements unless they cannot be seen from Highway 17. If the developer can show us that they can't be seen, then the buildings would not need to comply. Future land use shows this property as commercial, so it is in conformance with the future land use map. The staff recommended the following conditions. If the plan is approved, a tree plan to be submitted, be limited to 11,000 square feet. And the zoning department review for compliance with the overlay zone, then the other necessary approvals. A public hearing was held back in December by the Planning Commission. We did have 2 members of the public that came forward and expressed concerns about traffic, property values, and the fact that the area already has multiple mini storage units. The Planning Commission discussed the traffic issue, the removal of the access for Highway 17, the need for or lack of need for additional storage in the area, and the current demand for office commercial space. The vote from the Planning Commission was 2-2, 2 in favor and 2 opposed with 1 abstention. So we don't have a direct recommendation for the Planning Commission on this project.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Are there any questions for Ms. Richardson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a few. Holly, you said the planned development had 20,000, it's planned for 20,000 square feet office space.
Yes, sir.
Traffic estimated at 480 trips a day.
Yes, sir.
Versus 33 for the storage.
Yes, sir.
On the overlay zone, does that affect whether it can be seen from the road? And can it be seen from the road, or is there buffers put in place?
Since this track is partially located within the overlay zone, the ordinance says that if it is visible from Highway 17, then the buildings have to comply. I don't think it would be, especially based on the fact that they intend to leave a tree-lined buffer there, but we would have them demonstrate that as part of their building permit submittal to us that it could not be seen.
Means of egress is out the rear of the property. So there's, is that a heavily traveled road at the rear?
The main thoroughfare of Tiller Drive probably is. It's an important connection between 17 and Kings River Road. But essentially, this traffic would be traffic that would flow through the existing mini storage development, specifically to this site.
And you said the Midway Fire Department has reviewed the plan?
Yes, sir. They've reviewed a site plan, and their comments have been included in the version that's in your packet.
And they had no problem with the site plan that they have?
That's correct. As long as that emergency gate is provided, that can be utilized for them in case of an emergency.
It sounds like the property owner made many concessions in order to accommodate some concerns with the property. Is there any close residential area to this that would be a site hindrance or?
No, sir, I don't believe so. Like I said, there is residentially zoned property that touches this, but at this time, there are no residential structures there.
And the applicant currently has a mini storage there on site, correct?
Yes, sir. This is Midgard Self-Storage is the applicant.
So they're just trying to expand their business?
Correct.
Did they previously own this property, or did they have to purchase this property?
Cannot say that for sure, Mr. Newton. I believe they purchased it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, thank you. Are there any other questions for Ms. Richardson? Okay. Well, let's move forward with the vote. Is there a motion regarding ordinance number 22-03?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve ordinance 22-03.
A motion by Mr. Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carolina. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? 4 in favor, 2 opposed. Motion carries. We ask Mr. Goggins to return. Ms. Richardson, we're keeping you busy tonight.
Yes, sir.
Ordinance number 22-04.
Yes, sir. Items 11C and 11D will go together, and I'll do those as one, maybe save us some time. This is the rezoning of one parcel of 2.31 acres that's located on North Fraser Street in Georgetown from general commercial and forest agriculture residential to general commercial. The parcel is currently split zoned with the commercial in the front and the forest agriculture in the back. The property is being used today as a repair shop for helicopter parts, and the owner would like to have the entire parcel zone GC so he can expand his existing business. The parcel does meet the minimum lot area requirement for GC, and there are surrounding tracts to the north, southwest, and west that are zoned commercial. The tracts to the east are zoned forest agriculture residential. The future land use map designates this property and the surrounding properties as low density, so a change will be needed in order to facilitate the request. We do not consider this to be spot zoning based on the adjacent GC zoning and the surrounding commercial uses to the site. We feel like the zoning designation of GC would be in keeping with the uses, and it would get rid of the split zoning as well. Planning Commission held a public hearing. There was no one but the applicant that came forward to speak. The Planning Commission recommended approval with a vote of 5-0. Planning Commission also recommended an amendment to the future land use map from residential to commercial for the project.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Are there any questions for Ms. Richardson? We'll first take ordinance number 22-04. Is there a motion regarding ordinance number 22-04?
Make a motion, we approve ordinance 22-04, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We move down to ordinance number 22-05. Is there a motion regarding ordinance number 22-05?
Chairman, so moved.
Move for approval.
For approval.
We have a motion for approval by Mr. Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on down to item number 13, council briefing. We have a briefing from Madam Administrator.
Council, staff would like to introduce a new map for council consideration in response to citizen comments and concerns that all of you have expressed on redistricting. This map is labeled Map 509. Since many of the citizen concerns have focused on District 4 and minority participation, I will start there. We have increased the participation in that district from around 23% to 42.29 for minority participation. In District 3, it is 59.62. District 7, 57.50. We have submitted these maps also to our consultants at the state for their consideration to review our maps for compliance with redistricting principles. Some of those have been mentioned tonight, of course, with minimizing splitting of voting precincts, community interests, and of course, the Voting Rights Amendment. Certainly, there has been discussion regarding the city of Jacksonville and trying to put as much of that area together as possible. We have tried certainly to do that and address as many concerns as we possibly can. The new map will be available on our website. Citizens certainly can comment just as they've done before. We anticipate that we will also have one additional public meeting at Howard on February 2nd at 6 p.m., which will be live streamed to have some final discussion on our redistricting maps before the public hearing that is scheduled for February 8th, and the public hearing. And we will be back at our regular site, and that is at the old courthouse. We have worked on this for months. I would be amiss if I certainly didn't thank all the citizens who have participated as part of this process, but also the work of the staff. They have put in countless hours. We have poured over maps till our eyes are tired. We appreciate all the work that they've done to make sure as close as we can to get it right and to follow your direction. At this time, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have. I don't know if the tech team can pull it up, that you can see it real easily, but we will certainly have copies out in the foyer for folks to take a look at tonight for their review and consideration. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Madam Administrator. Are there any questions from council?
Chairman, I have a couple. Madam Administrator, what's the standard deviation with this 509 map?
It is 5.09%.
So that's the best standard deviation we've had on any map?
Yes, sir.
With just from the appearance of it, from the, speaking of the 509 map, have you gotten any feedback from Revenue and Fiscal Affairs yet?
We have not gotten their feedback yet. We expect to get it back late Friday afternoon, Monday at the latest, but we certainly expect to have it back before our meeting next week.
You know, I know one of the things they'll do, does it pass the eye test when they first look at it? And they're looking for gerrymandering going on.
Yes, sir.
Do we feel comfortable with this last plan? And there's been so many out there, they're all running together. I'm thankful we have them numbered so we
Right.
can keep them straight. And I do realize how much work has been put into this. Does District 4 not appear to be a little gerrymandered just from sight? Are we comfortable with that?
From the initial comments that they've given us, they can tell, of course, that we have done a tremendous amount of work to be as responsive as we possibly could be to meet the concerns that folks have expressed to us. And I've tried to make it very clear to folks, we hear you, and we're sensitive to trying to pull neighborhoods and parts of community together as much as we possibly could and give a clean map for consideration to the state.
Well, I must say, out of all the ones that have been put before us and that we've worked on, this was some good work done by you and your staff.
Thank you.
Good job.
Ms. Christian, there was also a concern about stacking. How does this 509 map match up with stacking, especially as it relates to the minority districts that are being proposed?
Say exactly, I may have missed part of your comment in relation to what, ma'am, if you just repeat that again.
There was concern about stacking in an earlier map. With this new map, do we have a concern, or should we be concerned right now about that, or has that been addressed and taken care of as best you could?
I think we've tried to address that. That's one of the things certainly we'll be looking from our consultants at the state to do that second eye test and to look at our map to see if we have addressed issues that they had some concerns about.
Are there any other comments or questions for?
Just one other comment. So in 10 years, when we go back through this again, you're gonna, you got all this experience behind you now.
A lot of work.
Thank you, Madam Administrator, for all the work that you and staff have been doing regarding these mapping situations. And thanks for taking into consideration the comments that you've been hearing and we've been hearing from the public regarding it. It appears as though you're trying to address each one of those particular comments, trying to keep communities together and similarities, and to make sure we have adequate representation in each one of these particular districts. Thanks for your continuous work. Thanks for all the work that your staff have done and continue to do. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
You'll go back to Ms. Richardson. Hazard mitigation grant.
Yes, sir. This is just a report for you all. The county has received a hazard mitigation grant from FEMA for the acquisition of 2.01 acres located on Schoolhouse Drive in Hemingway. This is a project that's been in the works for quite some time. It was even started under previous staff. And the property contains a single-family home and several outbuildings. It is located partially in a flood zone. The house flooded on 3 separate prior occasions and is currently inhabitable and has been left vacant. The owner has since moved to another location within the county. And this grant will allow for the purchase of the property. It does require the demolition of the structure and the outbuildings on the site. There is an existing septic tank there that would need to be eliminated, and the property would need to remain used for open space only. This project would allow us to remove a repetitively occurring flood issue, to remove a vacant and abandoned structure, and to allow for the addition of an additional 2 acres of open space in the county.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Richardson?
Yes, I have one, Mr. Chairman. Holly, the acoustic up here are not that good. And did you say that the grant covers our costs in the demolition of the property, turning it into a open space?
Correct. The grant covers the purchase of the property. There is a match as part of the grant. We will, of course, to the extent possible, we can include our in-kind work. Like if we do the demolition ourselves potentially, any administrative work we do towards it can hopefully count to get us towards that match.
Or if we needed to, we could contract that work out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Richardson, the land space is what, 2.01 acres? And so the cost of acquisition is roughly around what, 50-some thousand dollars per acre?
Something close to that, yes, sir.
Okay.
Including the structure as well.
Well, the structures we're going to tear down, is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Okay. So where this property is located, have we had an appraisal done to see whether or not that purchase price, or that is a purchase price, not a market price, whether or not that's in line?
Yes, sir. The property's been appraised. That was given to us by the applicant, and our budget is based off that amount.
Okay. The appraisal was given to us by the current owner.
Yes, sir.
Have
I
we-
believe
do we have
that's
a-
correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, do we have a counter appraisal to see if that figure is in line or not? Are we paying too much? Are we getting a tremendous deal?
We have not had a counter appraisal done. I think amongst staff, we've reviewed and feel comfortable with the current appraisal that we have. And again, the grant funding is paying for the purchase.
Holly, that had to be approved through the FEMA or whatever grant that come through, that was approved higher up, right?
Yes, sir. It's been approved by the state office and up through FEMA. They did send a list of questions. We've been reviewing that and gone through their process for several months now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Richardson? Well, you've heard the report. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we approve.
A motion by Mr. Newton for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goggins. Any discussion?
Is it necessary that we approve this?
Well, I think we do. Yes. I think we have to approve acceptance of all grants. Maybe we can direct it to staff and let them tell us whether we need to or not.
I think we were looking for a motion to move forward with the purchase using the grant funds, the purchase of the property.
Okay. Do you wish to?
So what's the
Zero in-
answer?
Just to zero in on this sale price. FEMA didn't ask for, they just accepted what we gave them, or the appraisal from the seller?
Yes, sir. We sent the appraisal to FEMA and they utilized that.
Okay.
So, for our clarification purposes, we have a motion for approval to go forward with
Excuse me. What was the answer? Do we need to go through a motion and approval on this? I think that was a good question. And I'm just looking for, what about that, Mr. Watson?
County gets lots of grants that don't come through council. Why this one?
It's a land purchase by the county. The funds are coming through a grant, but it is a land purchase. So I think you need to treat it as you would any other property purchase.
So we need to make a formal approval.
Yes, sir, and I think as Ms. Richardson said, what we're seeking is approval to move forward with the purchase utilizing the FEMA and grant funds.
So we've got a motion to approve and a second.
Yes, we're in the
So
discussion.
we're ready to vote then?
Ready. Yes, we're ready to vote.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries. And now we need to move into executive session. We need to move to executive session for legal briefing regarding contractual matters pursuant to SC Code annotated 30-4-782. Is there a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All right, we're now in the executive session. Is there a motion to move back into open session? Moved by Councilman Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Carolina. Any discussion? All in favor of moving back into open session, please raise your hand. Opposed? We're now back in open session. Please let the record reflect that we returned from executive session regarding legal briefing regarding contractual matters pursuant to Executive Code annotated 30-4-78-2. Please also note that no votes were taken during our executive session. Is there any further business to come before council? If there's no further business, there a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. We now stand adjourned.